Cambridge Insider podcast time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cambridge Insider podcast. As always, joining me, my co-host, Leanna Glass. How are you?
I'm doing great, Stephen. How are you doing?
Also doing well, thank you. Give us an update. I know you're on the ground. I know you're working with students. How has the general student arrival been the last couple of weeks?
It's been great. Actually, in my programs, it's been going amazing. I've had smooth student arrivals so far. I've had around 10 students arrive the last 2 weeks. We've had hosts picking them up from the airport. We've been doing our landing orientations for them. I was able to do a couple of those in person, which was really special this year to finally get back in person with our students, and they're vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, so it feels really safe, and it's just great to be in person together again.
So cool, so cool. Have you had any students that have been eager to get the vaccine, that have been able to come here and sort of start looking to schedule those? Has that been something that you've been seeing?
Yes, they have scheduled their appointments. They haven't received the vaccine yet, but they're on the calendar. So it's been going well. Their hosts are able to help them schedule at just local pharmacies or organizations that are right near their houses. So it's been really easy.
That's so cool. To all the students listening, that's if ever there's a massive benefit to getting on a plane and flying for 10, 11, 12 hours, come on over, we'll give you a vaccine. It's a great motivator. Then this afternoon, we're going to be chatting about, we have an awesome article. We do have the best executive producer, Dean, because he just tends to send us all of these articles to get the brains working a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about, I think, what has been I want to call it an issue, but has been an issue for the past couple of months, and we're seeing that continuing through this arrival season as well, Liana, as you just mentioned. But that's the classes are starting across the country. In some places they've started, in other places they are starting in the next couple of weeks. Yet we do still have students specifically that are struggling to get visas. Is that something that you've seen in your region? And if not, is that something that you've heard some of your SDM colleagues talk about?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit. Personally, in my programs, I'm not seeing it so much, but I'm definitely hearing it talked about in the international education community at large. We know COVID has taken has had a huge impact on the ability of these visa offices to turn the visas out, to get appointments moving, and to get students in and out of their offices. So we've definitely seen a delay in the processing of visas. This awesome article, like you mentioned, says that new international student enrollment dropped 43% in fall of 2020 due to COVID-19, obviously. So I think getting back into the swing of things with less people working in offices right now, less people are comfortable going into an office to work. We're seeing that in daily life in the US too. There's just a shortage of staff in a lot of places. So students are feeling the effects of that, the visa process.
And I think to add on to what you said, because we had this, many of our students deferred. Many students decided not to come the last, fall of 2020. Many of those students have applied now and are starting to come now. And we've got this backlash of students who did not receive visas, that have maybe been doing online learning, that are not part of essentially the new group of students coming in, but they still do need visas to come to the country. So it's not just, a lack of sort of the processing speed because we have fewer people there, but just the capacity to get through that backlog of people, tourists, businessmen, people who are coming here for education. I think there's been a big delay there. So, from your school side specifically, what have you seen as some of the communication that has gone out? Because I know this has touched schools as well. Obviously, our students are often left stranded, and we'll touch on that now in terms of being a little bit more proactive about that. What have you seen from the school side? Has this been something that's created challenges? What have been some of their solutions around students just not being able to get a visa, and ultimately, as much as they want to be here, they want to start in person, they want to get the vaccine, they just can't arrive?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, we talk a lot about communication on this podcast, but a lot of it, we've seen just an increase in communication between the students, Cambridge Network, and their schools. Sometimes there's an extra letter or an extra document that can help speed the process up. So just keeping those doors of communication open to turn out any sort of additional documentation might help speed up the process. And then additionally on the school side, obviously offering any type of online learning to support in these interim periods where maybe a student isn't able to get here on time for school to start. Obviously, that's very helpful. And I know maybe, Stephen, you can talk more to what schools can take advantage of with Cambridge Network if they do need support in offering online services.
Absolutely, it's such a good point. I think we can sit and we can come up with hypotheses and try and find different strategies to overcome this, but this is the reality of where we are, is that many students are not able to get into the country right now. So I think both from a student and a school's perspective, is there online learning available? I know that's something that the majority of US schools have distanced themselves from and said, we're starting in person, we're starting in fall as we want our traditional education to be, which is person to person in the classroom. But the reality is that very likely as a school, you're going to have to offer some online option for a couple of new students who just simply cannot get a visa. Is that a commitment to online education for the foreseeable future? Absolutely not. I think majority of schools that I've worked with have said, you know what, for a couple of months, we're willing to keep you in the loop so that you don't fall terribly behind. We, of course, understand, and this is something that I've been hearing from schools, is that it's a great drain on resources. It's a lot of administrative hours and resources that go into offering that online service. And it's also, from a student's perspective, not necessarily an ideal learning environment. And if that is the case for a school or for a student listening, of course, Cambridge have successfully now for close to 2 years, I believe, but don't quote me on it, been running our St. Mary's Online Academy. It's a fully accredited high school that offers these robust, classes to students that want to be online or that want to be able to take those classes in China, specifically in China, but online if they're not able to get to a class there. So that allows them the opportunity to continue working towards getting those credits at an accredited institution. The majority of our schools are happy with and have approved those credits that they're earning through SMOA, which is awesome. So that's a great option. But I think from a school's perspective, understand that you're likely going to have to offer something. From a student's perspective as well, if you do foresee, hey, there could be some delays. I know my friend went for a visa interview and only got an appointment 5 months later. Be proactive. Have that as part of your communication. To ask the school, what if I don't get the visa? Are there options? How do we go about that? Because I think in a time crunch like this, it's essential to not leave any stone unturned and to make sure that we do have a contingency plan. That is just fall 2021. I'm of the firm belief we've moved so far ahead that we're actually able to offer online in-person classes this fall. I believe this too will pass. But it is about dealing with this reality as we speak. So, for schools and for students listening, there are just a couple of things to be able to focus on.
Definitely. And this article will be linked in our show notes, but it does say a U.S. State Department spokesperson encouraged students to apply early for visas, adding that the department prioritizes interview appointments for students and expedites appointments on a case-by-case basis. So the earlier you can get started, the better. And that's really the number one thing as a student. That's what you can prioritize, is just getting in there early, being proactive, and making moves as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and it is frustrating. We understand that. Look at it in terms of a 3 or 4 year high school career, and then potentially another 4 to 6 years of college after that. This is a small blimp in the radar. This is a small little obstacle. Don't get caught up in, I'm so frustrated that I'm going to give up this dream. Both from a school and from a student's perspective, we understand. We hoped to get to fall 2021 and everything would just be a watershed moment and fall away, but this is a small frustration. We understand, and we urge you to take those sort of steps that you can to make sure that you do as much as possible, and then wait it out. Make sure you get that visa, and it'll be worth the wait once you get to meet your SDM, somebody like Leanna, who's going to be such a great support structure when when you get to the country. Leanna Glass, any final thoughts from your side as we close off this topic for today?
Yeah, well, I think for those who take a closer look at this article, it does, have a silver lining. I think that with all the challenges that are coming about right now due to COVID-19 and all of the backlog of applications, they're going to have to look at the processing of visas and figure out how to make it more efficient. So, we're struggling through this period right now, but I do think there will be great improvement that comes from it in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, final word for me is just remember to be proactive. Whether you're a school, whether you're a parent, whether you're an agent, or whether you're a student, be proactive, because this is the times that we live in, and we want to make sure that we give ourselves the best opportunity to hopefully get in person at some stage through the year. As Leanna mentioned, our executive producer, Dean, our superstar of a researcher, will be posting the article that we referenced in our show notes. So feel free to reference that, have a read through it. It really is a well-written article that just gives you a couple of points, but also a general idea of where we are at this stage when it comes to visa processing. As always, remember to like, listen, subscribe, leave us a couple of comments, a couple of questions. If there's a specific topic that you want us to deal with, put that in there, and Leanna and myself will be sure to deal with that topic. Until next time,
send in some questions.
That's it. Until next time, to all of our listeners, we'll catch you around the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.